Gillibrand.
Thank you, Chairman Grassley and Ranking Member Feinstein, for holding this very important hearing and inviting me to participate. I first came to this issue of medical marijuana when parents of children suffering from seizure disorders began to contact my office for help in accessing a strain of cannabis known as CBD. As we've already heard today, and we'll hear from our witnesses, CBD can reduce the number of seizures patients experience. The benefits are dramatic. Children's brains and bodies can actually develop, they can learn, and they can play. Children can be children. I'll speak more about families I've met in a moment, but I also wanted to note that CBD is just one strain of cannabis that has medical benefit for a variety of illnesses affecting our constituents. I've submitted added testimony today on that. While outside the scope of today's hearing, it's important in our consideration of medical marijuana reform. I appreciate the caucus's consideration of that testimony. Over the past few months, I've met with many families from across New York State and the nation who desperately need access to medical marijuana. These are mothers and fathers whose children are suffering every single day from diseases like Dravet syndrome and epilepsy. These are young boys and girls who have hundreds of seizures a day. Their development is delayed because they experience so many seizures. But while doctors advise that CBD would alleviate the number of seizures, parents risk violating federal law just to administer the medicine prescribed and can face arrest and the loss of custody. I'm a parent. I have 2 young boys. I know many of you in this caucus are also parents. I personally cannot imagine the pain and frustration that these families endure when confronted with this choice. Earlier this year, we received a letter from a mother named Missy, whose son Oliver, who I've met, suffers from a seizure disorder. She wrote a letter for our committee, and she wrote, Oliver had a planned trip for a long time to perform at Disney World with his school's percussion group. It was supposed to be one of the highlights of his life. But as is our life with refractory seizures, he's been seizing and sedated from all rescue meds this whole trip. It's heartbreaking for me to watch this endless torture. The last time we were here at Disney World, Oliver could still walk. He could still sit up in rides. He could still enjoy being in a pool. That was 2 years ago. This is what the seizures have taken from him in just 2 years. This trip, he can no longer walk. He can't sit unsupported in any ride. He could not tolerate the pool, and he seized through his favorite ride. Please remember him and represent him and so many others like him. This mother and thousands of other parents just like her, they're simply asking Congress to do its job, to take care of America's families by letting doctors determine what their patients need. State lawmakers across the country have already recognized what the medical community is telling us, that cannabis can treat a variety of illnesses, from MS to cancer to epilepsy to seizures. 23 states, plus Washington, D.C., have already passed laws to legalize medical marijuana. But none of that matters because our outdated federal laws preempt any of the state laws. The recognition that the regulations are behind the science is growing here in Washington. Committees in both the House and Senate have passed amendments to expand access to medical marijuana. And just this week, the White House proposed a new rule to lift long-standing obstacles to medical marijuana research. But until we change our federal law, doctors cannot prescribe this medicine to children who need it, even in states where it's legal. Until we change the federal laws, scientists will still face barriers to researching medical marijuana and the most effective way to use it, even in states where it's legal. Until we change the federal laws, parents like Missy are stuck watching their children suffer through hundreds of seizures a day, even in states where medical marijuana is legal. Let's do our jobs. Let's pass a new, modern law on medical marijuana that respects state laws, that respects modern scientific research, and that respects our families. Thank you.
Yeah.